our topic of discussion was urban and rural life. We talked about consonant sounds. We just had a small discussion about it. We also talked about conjunctions. We also talked about connectors and conditioners, and we said that conjunctions and connectors are similar. We also talked about what urban means and also what rural means as individual words. Then we saw the learning outcomes. We looked at the advantages and the disadvantages of urban and rural life, participating in conversations and role plays, which is what we're going to do today. Appreciating written accounts of young people's experience of success in different settings, utilizing regular and irregular verbs, articulating consonant sounds that are often confused, and carrying out a debate on emotion related to urban and rural life. We talked about what people understand by urban and rural life individually, and people say that in their understanding and urban life, most of us understand that it's basically cities and urban areas that have factories and stuff like that. Then we also looked at rural life, whereby we see a lot of villages, we see slums. So I think that's majorly what we talked about. We also talked about the advantages and disadvantages of rural life, whereby people were saying that in urban life, the cost of living is high as a disadvantage, and it's not always suitable for everybody to live there. Whereas in rural life, the cost of living is actually cheaper, whereby people spend less because they do everything on their own. Then we also looked at these pictures, and most of the responses that I got, they were actually neutral. Most people wanted to stay in both places for different reasons. For example, I remember somebody said that they wanted to stay in the place on the left because they would want to get, should I say, more resources and more opportunities for employment, whereas others say that they would want to stay in the place on the right because they would want to be away from the city life, away from pollution. Then we also talked about adjectives like chaotic or serene and how we can use them in our sentence construction. Then we also had a discussion and we asked how many of you have ever moved from an urban area to a rural area or vice versa, and how did you feel about it and what your experience was like. I remember somebody talking about moving from an urban area to a rural area and they didn't like it because it was smelly. So I'm guessing that place was a slum, and I agree. Most of the time slums are smelly. Most of the Kampala city slums are smelly and they're really congested. Then before we left last week, we had a poem titled Urban Life by Webster Mubonwa, and somebody read it for us, but I think at around this time people were logging out. So today I'd like us to revisit these poems and answer the questions. There are only two. Then we shall move on to the next thing. So may I have a volunteer to read for us this poem? Isaac, please help to choose those who would like to participate.
You want to read for us, you can raise up the hand. Ariel.
Um, the poem is Urban Life. The title of the poem is Urban Life. People
Mm-hmm.
shouting, factory pollution, people rushing for the bus, an accident here, vehicle inspection there, hooters non-stop, seeing dogs wander through that and litter. Water comes from a tap, you hardly see a rabbit or a buck. You never see real darkness. You pay for everything, your food, your fun, and people. Keep spitting on the pavement. Boy Webster, move on.
Thank you so much. um, we're seeing this poem here titled Urban Life. When you look at this poem, what do you understand from let me see, from this line? You hardly see a rabbit or a buck. You never see real darkness. In your opinion, what do you, okay, in your understanding, what do you get from these two lines? You hardly see a rabbit or a buck. You never see real darkness. Anybody who would like to give us the response?
Like there is nobody.
Okay, let me give you what I understand. The setting in the poem is a city, as we all know. When we reach the city, you'll hardly see a rabbit or a buck. When they say you hardly see a rabbit or a buck, it means there's barely any form of animal life. Barely any there's barely any fauna. And then when they say you never see real darkness, as we all know, the city is always busy. So when you're in the city, it's always lit up because people are always moving. So at this even at night when it's supposed to be dark, there are so many lights that are switched on. So that's why they say you never see real darkness. And then people shouting, factory pollution. When you see people shouting and factory pollution, people shouting, it could be the market vendors, conductors on the roadside, because they're always looking for customers for their services or their products. And then factory pollution, there are a lot of factories in cities. For example, in Ginger, there are a lot of factories there. So there's a lot of pollution or waste excretion from those factories. That's why they say people shouting, factory pollution. Then people rushing for the bus, an accident here, vehicle inspection there. People who are rushing for the bus, these are people who are late for work or they are trying to get to work on time. Then there's an accident here. Since the city is very crowded, right? So there's a lot of movement, and sometimes people are either drunk and they're driving on the road, or their cars are in dangerous mechanical condition, DMC. So that's why they say an accident here, vehicle inspection there, because people have cars in DMC. Then hooters non-stop. I think that one is obvious. That means that there's always traffic jam in the city. Thin dogs wander through dirt and litter. I think we have all seen the stray dogs when you're in an urban area. We see the stray dogs moving about, and we see they look sickly, and they are sickly because they have rabies. So they wander through dirt and litter because they're always looking for something to eat. Um, then you pay for everything, your food, your fun, and people. This simply means that in an urban setting, it is so rare for you to have something that's for free. And even sometimes the things that you have for free, it's so suspicious because something that is free, how do I say, it's like you've not worked for it. Some people say that it's not like it's like you've not worked for it. And others they say maybe they are trying to get something from them. So they're also saying you pay for everything, your food, your fun. They're saying that even something as a basic need like food, you have to pay for it. Even something that's not supposed to be for paying, that's fun, you have to pay for it. Even people like teachers, you have to pay for their services. And then um the next poem that we have, the last one, village life. So can I please have somebody to go through it for us?
Village like
Mm-hmm.
Kanyari, village of toil, village of unending work, like a never-drying spring. Old women, dark and bent, trudge along with their hoes to, to plots of weedy maize. Young wives like donkeys, from cockcrow to setting of the sun, go about their timeless duties. Their scraggy figures like bows set in a row, plod up and down the rolling village farms with the loads on their backs and babies tied to their bellies. By Mama Gashi.
Thank you so much. Um, this is the Village Life by Mama Gashi. So, is there anyone who would like to give us a clue on what they might be talking about in this poem? Please feel free.
There is no
Yes?
there is no one.
Okay. Um, let me give my opinion on what they might be talking about. Mama Gashi was trying to talk about how in this village, Kanyariri village, there's never ending work. When you go to a village, I think some of you have seen that whether what, there'll always be work for you to do. Whether it's going to the farm or grazing cattle or even harvesting the crops that might be there, it's a village of unending work. Then old women, dark and bent, trudge along with their hoes to plots of weedy maize. Here they're telling us how even old women in that village are always doing something. Like their age doesn't stop them from going ahead to go and weed, to remove weeds from these plots of weedy maize. Their age does not matter. They're basically saying that these ladies are so hardworking that they're always on the plots of weedy maize to do something. Then let me go ahead to the next slide. From the two given poems, give the points which help you to get a true picture of what life is like in either a town or a village? Anybody who would like to give us what they think about now after reading those poems? What do you think life is like in a town or a village? Please feel free. Is there anybody who would like to tell us?
No.
I think from the two poems, I think most of you can understand that in a town, life is always busy. It never stops. Like everybody is moving, everybody is hustling. In a village, there's never ending work. When I say never ending work, I mean there's never ending working on farms. There's always something to clean, always something to do. I think we can talk about the different adjectives that could be used, that we could use to describe either a town or a village. So please at least give me two adjectives which you could use to explain a town or a village.
Busy.
Yes, that's true. Is there, do you have any other?
Stacy. There is no
Yes.
hand raised.
Okay. These are some of the adjectives that I would use. We have noisy for urban life, whereas village life, I would say yes, it's quiet. Ignoring what's here on the screen, but it's quiet in the village. Then it's also urban life is also expensive, whereas village life is cheap. Then our main topic of discussion today is the future tense. So could you please tell me, what do you think future tense is?
I think the future tense in time to come, in the future.
Yes, just like it says here, future. When you see future tense, it automatically tells you this is a tense which is going to be used to express an action that is yet to come. It hasn't happened yet, but it is yet to come, or it is going to happen. So when somebody asks you what's future tense, just say future tense is a tense that's used to describe an action, to talk about an action that is yet to come. When we look at future tense, when you look at these sentences, actually, which two words do you think we use when we're talking about future tense? What's the key two words we should see in these sentences?
Shall and will.
Yes, that's true. So when we see number one, it says, I shall get my salary tomorrow, or I will get my salary tomorrow. Then the third one says, I'll get my salary tomorrow. This is just a contraction, or a short form for I will or I shall. So if you get this, don't get confused. You can either use will or shall. Um, I'm going to get my salary tomorrow. I'm getting my salary tomorrow. I get my salary tomorrow. I'll be getting my salary tomorrow. Are you seeing how all these are sentences that are used to describe what's going to happen the next day? All because of the word tomorrow. When you see the word tomorrow, it will automatically tell you it's not going to happen now, but it's going to happen soon. Other words like the next day, next month, next week, those are words that are going to tell you this is going to happen tomorrow. Aside from shall and will, this also supports what you're talking about. Tomorrow, or the next day, or the next week, next year. You can say, I will be going to senior 3 next year. That's what future tense talks about. Future tense talks about how this is not going to happen now, but it's going to happen soon. All these sentences are the same, but the way they use, the way it's constructed is different. All the outcomes are the same, except the way they are constructed is different. One important rule about the use of future tense is that you do not use shall except with I and we, And also, will can be used with we. Shall, do not use shall except with I and we. And note that will can be used with we. So when we look at these sentences here, shall was only used with will, and it was only used once here and also here, unless you also want to say here. But we also see that you can use I with will. So one thing you should not forget, most especially when it comes to that rewrite section, section B or subsection A, never forget that shall is only used with I and we. But will can also be used with we. So you can say we will go to Ginger tomorrow. We will go to school tomorrow. So shall has to be used with only I and we. So if you make a mistake and say they shall, it is totally wrong. You have to say they will, or it will, not it shall. It will. Then these are some of the examples which I was able to come up with. Is there anybody who could please read them for us?
Mwanguzi Josiah. Josiah. Okay. I shall be going to Arua next week. Mary will be going to town. Mary will be going to town with John. We shall have supper at 7 in the evening. I will be visiting my parents during the Easter break. We shall visit the children in April.
Thank you so much. I think you can see in these examples what I've been talking about. Number one says, I shall. Not I will, but I shall. So if it was I will be going, no, that's completely wrong. Even when you say it, it sounds wrong. Oh, sorry, that's not wrong. I'm sorry. If you say they shall, it will be completely wrong. So you have to say I shall. Sorry. Then here says Mary will. An alternative for this, for pronouns, sorry, for I will, I, he, she, you can use somebody's name and say will. Mary will, or Isaac will. Then number 3 says we shall have supper at 7 in the evening. Not we will, but we shall have supper at 7 in the evening. I will be visiting my parents during the Easter break, and we shall visit the children in April. Using the general rule that you have learned. The general rule of do not use shall except with I and we, and that you cannot use will, and that will can also be used with we. So using this general rule, I want you to construct for me sentences using will or shall. Anybody who would like to give a response?
We shall go to school tomorrow. I shall go to the market tomorrow. They will dig tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I think you could hear in her sentences, I shall go to school tomorrow, not I will. Then one thing that you need, something that you'd want to know, when you say will, I will, that's okay, that's wrong, but let's say you're saying we will, it's less polite than saying shall. Shall is more polite than saying will. These are some of the sentences which I have. Number 1 says, we shall be sorry to leave the village. Area will have to stay in the city this holiday. Everyone will know that I have failed to live in the city. You will need somebody to take me to the village. Cattle farming will bring him plenty of money now that he is back in the village. The rain will spoil everything that we have done. And lastly, we shall be able to judge for ourselves how they manage life in the city. You see from these sentences, you will, area will, your name and will, the rain will, we shall, cattle farming will. So if you're talking about something, not a person, okay, maybe like an object, or okay, fine, let's say like the rain will. They didn't say the rain shall. The rain will spoil everything that we have done. Cattle farming will bring him plenty of money now that he is back in the village. Area will have to stay in the city this holiday. So, when you're talking about something like the rain, or if you're talking about a general group of people or a general point of discussion, use will. Then I think one of our last activities, I want us to look at this dialogue and we fill in the blank spaces with what you think we're supposed to put, with either will or shall. We have Teresa and Bernadette as our main discussants. And then is there anybody who would like to please help us to fill in the blank for the first one, the first statement?
Ariel,
Number one, where will you go for your holidays?
Thank you. That's correct. The second one.
The second, I shall go home to spend the holidays with my parents.
Yes.
John, the third one, do you think you will be able to do your homework?
Yes, that's correct. Number 4.
Uh, Two,
The third, do you think you will be able to do your homework?
Thank you. Could you please do the fourth one for us as well?
Alaf in the chat says the first
Mhm.
dash
Mhm.
is will. She says that you will have to do. I will try to. Otherwise, I shall be in trouble with the teachers. First from Alaf.
Did you say I will try to or I shall try to?
Alaf saying that I will try to.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I shall be in trouble with the teachers. From Alaf.
Thank you so much. Um, I think we can all remember the general rule. The general rule is for shall, we use I and we. So if you say I will, that's wrong. That's why you have to say I shall. So so the correct response here, just for here, would be I shall try to. Otherwise, I shall be in trouble with the teachers. It doesn't matter whether it's at the beginning or not. The point is that it's going to stay shall. So, for example, someone could ask you a question of Shall we go to the supermarket tomorrow? It's at the beginning of the sentence, but still you have to use shall because you're using because you're using what? We. Then for number 5,
You, John,
You will have to do the work during the day since there is no electricity where it is.
yes?
You will have to do the work during the day since there is no electricity in your village.
Yes, that's correct. You will have to. And then number 6,
Alafi says, right, right. Shall we start on it now before I leave for the village?
yes, that's correct. Then the last one, number 7,
Shall. Tour. Okay, Alafi says that, okay, but I shall not be able to stay long. I need to look after my little brothers at home.
thank you. So now that you have filled in all the blanks with will or shall, can I have 2 volunteers? Feel free. And I want you to compose a dialogue for us, to read the poem for us. One should be Teresa, one should be Bernadette. Doesn't matter whether you're boys, you can even change the names. Can I have only 2 volunteers? Or I have 1 volunteer, then I read the other part.
John, we have John and Tour.
Yes, please read for us. So who is going to be Teresa and who is going to be the Bernadette?
I'll be there.
Okay, you can start.
Teresa, where will you go for your holiday?
Mm-hmm. Is there anybody who is doing Bernadette's part? Is there anybody or I do it?
Some guys are raising their hands. There's Tua, there's John.
Let one of them be Bernadette. The person who would like to.
John,
John, do you mind?
Yeah, I'll be Teresa. Guys,
Yes.
where will you go for your holiday?
Who is
I said,
Bernadette?
maybe you be dinner.
Yes.
You can work it as dinner.
Yes. Okay, who is Teresa? I'll be Bernadette.
Okay, I'll be Bernadette.
Okay.
Then should I start?
Yes.
Where will you go for your holidays, Bernard?
I shall go home to spend the holidays with my parents.
Do you think you will be able to do your homework?
I shall try to, otherwise I shall be in trouble with the teachers.
You will have to do the work during the day since there is no electricity in your village yet.
Right. Shall we start on it before I leave for the village?
Okay, but I shall not be able to stay alone. I need to look after my little brothers at home.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. This is basically the end of our discussion today. So before we log out, is there anybody who has a question about this topic in general? Before you go back to school, is there anything that you'd want me to talk about? Or is there anything that's giving you trouble? Anybody who has a question? Yes, John.
John
Did you guys
has his
have
Yes.
did you guys have the debate last week?
Does anybody have a question? If nobody has a question, thank you so much for tuning in to this lesson. It has been a pleasure. I hope that you have the rest of your holiday is okay, eventful, and I would like to wish those of you who are about to go to school good luck, and thank you so much. I think you can log out now.